Hello, today I would like to talk about my recent purchase, the iPhone 7 Plus. Now, obviously there's been many reviews on the internet about the iPhone 7 Plus and the iPhone 7. There's been a lot of good stuff and obviously a few criticisms. I'll get the criticism out of the way first. The headphone jack's missing. Well, you know, to me, that's neither here nor there. I use Bluetooth headphones, and the fact that I have to plug anything into here, you know, audio into here, that's not really a big deal to me, so we'll forget that one. The lovely things about this phone is I'm using it more as a camcorder, strangely enough, than a phone. And what I really wanted to see was how good is it as a camcorder. It actually shoots in 4K. It can shoot in 1080 as well, but I've got it set to shoot in 4K. But do be aware though, as with any 4K filming, does use up a lot of memory. So it's well worth buying the phone with bigger memory if you're looking at doing filming with it. There's many apps you can download for the iPhone for filming, and I would recommend that you do, in all honesty. The app that comes with it, the actual built-in Apple app, it is fine for quite a bit of stuff, but there's quite a few drawbacks with it, of which I'll go through in just a moment. But the display on the phone is absolutely gorgeous. Apple call it a retina display. It's I just think it's bright, it's sharp, it's absolutely gorgeous. And I have noticed how much better it is compared to my 6 Plus. No, I had the iPhone 6. And also the screen size, absolutely fantastic, really nice size screen, which again is very common with top of the range phones. That's nothing really new there, but it's fast, it's responsive, and as an overall package I think it's great. I do find it a little bit slippery. It kind of wants to slide out your hand. It does half concern me that when I'm using it without its case, I actually did buy just a cheap case to put it in, and I generally use the case with it because it is slippery. I'm going to go through more what it can do for filming and photography than I am as far as the phone is concerned. So let's get straight into that. Now, it comes with its own camera app, which is okay. You know, it's absolutely okay. For photography, it's fine, but again, it still has its downsides. But you can set it up for taking square pictures, which I guess is for the likes of Instagram. Portrait. This portrait mode for taking photographs is an interesting one. It creates a false bokeh, sort of a make-believe out of focus background, as it were. It works with some images and not others, which I'll show you when we go through them. You have to be selective how you use it. But even if you get it wrong, it does shoot a standard JPEG as well as this bokeh effect kind of background. So it's no big deal if it doesn't work. You've got two images to work with. So, and it is only a prototype. They're calling it beta. So when the actual release comes out, I think it's December when the main release comes out, I'm sure they'll iron out some of its faults. It's got two lenses, which is great. So you've got your two lenses. You've got your telephoto lens and you've got your standard lens. So when you're doing telephoto stuff, or you're shooting in 2 times, it actually is using the second lens. So it's not digitally zooming in, which is fantastic because you're going to get a much better photograph. You're going to get a much better photograph because it's not a digital zoom, it's using the actual second camera, and that's really good. Look, you can see there, photograph, well, try that way, even that way. You can see there, I don't know if you can see actually, but you can see there, that's the wide lens, and then click on that and you get the telephoto lens. Marvellous, absolutely marvellous. So that's great. The built-in app, you're limited to how you can adjust your exposure and your settings. There is, when you just click on the screen, you can pull the exposure up and down. quite a bit actually, but you don't know what it's adjusting. It can't adjust the aperture because it's a fixed aperture, so you're stuck with that. I think it's an f1.8 lens on the wide, an f2.8 I think. You'd have to check that on the actual telephoto, but you can't adjust the aperture, so you're fixed with that. So what it's adjusting is a combination of shutter speed and ISO, which isn't quite so bad for photographs. In fact, it's probably quite fine for photos. I wouldn't lose sleep over that too much, particularly as it's only a phone. The problem comes when you're shooting video, because you can't adjust the aperture. There's a triangle really with exposure normally, conventionally. You have your aperture, shutter speed and ISO, and a combination of those three affects your exposure. But with video, you don't really want to be mucking around with your shutter speed unless you're deliberately trying to get a specific effect. You really want to set it. In the UK, it should be around about 1/50th of a second. In the States, it'd be around about 1/60th of a second. So, problem there comes when you're in the video mode on the iPhone, you can adjust the exposure. So you can see well, you might be able to see it's moving the exposure up and down. But what is it adjusting? That's what we don't know. It's probably, well, almost certainly going to be adjusting the combination of the ISO and the shutter speed. Well, you want the shutter speed locked off, which you can't do in the conventional iPhone app. You need to download some pro apps to be able to do that. I've downloaded 2 apps for filming, which I really like. One is Filmic Pro. I tend to use that more than the other one, and the other one is Movie Pro. Now with both of these you can adjust the shutter speed. So you go into Filmic Pro, let that boot up, and you get a lovely interface, very clean, very simple interface. And to adjust the exposure, you just move the that receptacle over the area you want to be exposed correctly. Same with the shutter, the focus, move that to what you want in focus. That's what it will focus on. And you can lock off, the focus, you can lock off the exposure like there. But you still don't know what it's adjusting. So what they've done, which is really good, you've got a certain amount of manual control, hold on to that. And you've got the 3, you've got your ISO, shutter speed, so you've got ISO there, that'll adjust your ISO, shutter speed, which you can adjust, and then exposure value. But don't muck around with that too much, because that will upset your shutter speed, that will change the shutter speed. So it gets, with a phone, it gets a little bit more complicated with filming than it would do with a conventional camera. So what I do, I lock it off to 1/50th, like so. Don't muck around with the exposure value, because that will change the shutter speed as well. And use the ISO to change, to get the exposure right. And then you find, you lock that off, and then that is the exposure locked off, and you know you're shooting at 1/50th of a second, which is about right. Well, it is exactly right for in the UK anyway, and in the States it would be 1/60th. You can still set your focus and what have you. Great app. The other 2 other really nifty things with this particular app is, firstly, there's a remote setting on this app, so you can activate this camera via another iOS device, be it an iPad, another phone. So if you're further away from it and you want to remotely set the phone, then you can. I use the watch. I've got the Apple Watch, and it's great. And it even comes up with a tiny little display on the watch as to what you're setting. Now where that comes in handy for me, because I'm working solo, I can be in front of the camera like I am now, be sat down and check the actual framing and what have you. I mean, I can set the trigger and start it from where I'm sat. Great if you've got it on a drone. I'm not sure I'd actually trust putting a very expensive phone on a drone, but you know, hey ho, somebody might. I wouldn't do it, but somebody else might. So you've got that, you can do that as well. So that's one fantastic feature that I really like. And the other great feature, if you've got this connected to an external recorder, such as one of the Atomos recorders, works beautiful with it. I've got the 4K version. Unfortunately, even though it records internally 4K, the HDMI out, which goes via the Lightning port, only outputs 1080, but it's a crisp 1080 and it's really good. And with Filmic Pro, you can actually tap the screen, he says. Well, you've got to set it up first, so I obviously haven't got it set up. So you go into device and you set it up to enable remote is on. Tap to hide interface, don't know if you can see that. Tap that to hide the interface. And then when you've got this connected to an external recorder, obviously you don't want the display to show up. Click on the display and there you have a perfectly clean HDMI output for filming to an external recorder. And one of the benefits, well, there's many benefits to recording to an external recorder. Firstly, you've got the bigger screen to view it on. Secondly, it records in ProRes 422 or even 444, so you're getting crisp, really high quality output. And the third thing is, you're not restricted by the amount of memory you've got actually in the phone. You could record 4, 5, 6 hours worth, possibly longer, depending on the size of a hard drive. So that's that app. And the other app, which I occasionally use, is Movie Pro. Now this one, go away, this one kind of very similar to Filmic Pro. You've got your exposure settings, you've got your focus you can set. The only thing I'm not keen on with this app, it is fiddlier. The icons are smaller, and they seem to have crammed more on it, but there we go, it is available. I have heard people say it actually produces better quality than Filmic Pro. Well, I've been delighted with the quality that Filmic Pro produces, so that tends to be my go-to app, as it were. As far as photography is concerned, I tend to use just the standard Apple app that they supply. It takes great panoramic pictures as well, pano pictures with it, so I'm very happy with that. And as I say, the twin camera works beautiful, and the stills that come out the Apple app is fine. One app I do like though, as far as taking stills, is ProCam. I use that one a fair bit. It's got your leveling gauge, so you can see, it's an overlay, so obviously it doesn't end up on the photo, but an overlay of a leveling gauge, which is really good. And you can set your ISOs manually. You've got so many, I won't go into all the details, you've got so many manual control. But one of the lovely things with this particular app, you can set your aspect ratio. And because I'm predominantly a video producer, I've got mine preset to 16:9. So if I need to take a quick still out on location of what I'm filming or whatever, I can drop that still into the video without having to recrop it, resize it. And when you recrop it and resize, now you could lose quality, or you almost certainly would lose quality, but equally so, you can cut pieces off that you want in the actual photo, because obviously you've got to cut it to fit the aspect ratio. With this particular app, you can set that to 16:9. So that's, to me, a godsend. You can't do that, as far as I'm aware, in Apple's app. You might be able to. Lightroom is a great app for you photographers out there. I use Lightroom on the desktop all the time, and you know, the amazing thing with this particular app, and I think it's going to become more and more popular, is when you use the camera in Lightroom. Let's go back out of that and go into the camera. Use the camera in Lightroom. You can set Lightroom to shoot in DNG, which is basically a RAW format, Adobe's RAW format. Fantastic, because you've got a tremendous scope then of adjusting the dynamic range and bringing down, you know, the blacks and the whites, and a complete range of adjustments in that particular app. The other thing that I bought for it, more as to play with really, rather than as a serious thing, is a gimbal. And I'll go into this in another, I think I'll do another review on this actually, because this was cheap. I got this off Amazon. We've posted 62 quid in the UK, 62 quid. It's a 2-axis gimbal, so it's not your, you know, it's not the best. Well, it's cheap, and to be honest, I thought it'd be crap. I thought it would be really crap. But once the camera's on it, and you know you've got it set up correctly, I ain't going to bother obviously setting it all up now. But that basically goes on. Whoopsie daisy. That goes on like so. Before you turn it on, you just have to balance it up a little bit, and then you turn it on there, and there you have a really clever little gimbal. You can adjust that, and you can see, I don't know if you can see that keeps that nice and straight. It's bloody good. It is really good. Cheap as nuts, so it's kind of disposable, isn't it? If you find it's crap, then you know, dispose of it. But you know, absolutely wonderful piece of kit. There are drawbacks to it, as there would be because of the price. Basically, the biggest drawback is the battery don't last long, so it, you know, you can't do a lot of filming with it. I've got about 15 minutes out of it on one charge, unless I'm not charging it correctly or whatever, I don't know. But that is a nifty piece of kit. I also got, again, for doing filming, the built-in mics are okay. They're okay for your ambience and what have you. But I did buy a Zoom. There's various makes actually on the market, but I got the Zoom, I don't know what it's called, IQ6 microphone. That just plugs straight into the lightning port, like so. And there you have very, very high quality microphones for recording sound. And you can set the pattern to either be more directional or more omnidirectional just by turning the modules or the capsules, I think they call them. And you've got manual gain control as well on there. There is an app that is supplied. Oh, that's odd. Oh, look at that. It's upside down. Have I locked it? Oh, maybe I have. There is an app that you can download through the App Store. Where we are. And that acts as your portable manual recorder. And you know, the staggering thing is that will produce as good a quality, or pretty much as good a quality as the Zoom recorders, but it's all just built into your phone. I know, it's staggering, isn't it? But this does work with Filmic Pro. Filmic Pro does recognise you've plugged in an external mic. So that's ideal for audio recording on the go, as it were. And it does come with, well, it's not really a windsock, it's a muffler that just fits on there quite nicely. Nice tight fit, like so. So yeah, that is that. And again, that was, they're not dear, 60 something quid for one of those. That's cheap as nuts again to get really good, you know, really good quality sound from your iPhone. So there we go. And I will be doing some more reviews on the iPhone 7 Plus. As I said, the image quality is superb. You've got no problem with that at all. It's not as good as you would get from a traditional DSLR or what you'd get from a high quality point and shoot camera. I don't think anybody would expect it to be. But although there is some professional films being made on the iPhone, so the next review for you guys. Thanks very much. Bye for now.